Previously on an episode of Positives 1 year ago.
These games prove that Sonic the Hedgehog can exist in today's modern gaming climate, and I'm thankful for Sonic the Hedgehog coming out because it was the catalyst that spurred the creation of these different concepts in games. Think about how bad this game is. If you were Sonic Team, would you want to replicate it? Well, no, you wouldn't, and neither do they. So this game instilled a fear in them to never replicate this kind of terrible gameplay again. When I did a Positives episode on Sonic 2006, I honestly thought that was pretty much going to be the end of it. I was so firm in my belief that Sega would never release another bad Sonic game ever again. And then just a few short weeks later, we got this. Sonic Boom. God, let's find the positives. Sonic Boom is a terrible game, and I know a lot of you out there probably already know that, but guess what? This game, it's even worse than Sonic 2006, and that's incredible. This game takes everything that is wrong with Sonic the Hedgehog and amplifies it in a way that no other Sonic game has ever done in the past. And it's quite remarkable. I've never played a Sonic game this bad, and I've played a lot. And the Sonic 2006 game that I played recently, which I also wasn't a big fan of, well, this one just makes it look so much better. I can't understand how this game got to be made, but let's take a look at a bunch of the problems that are in the game right now. Sonic Boom starts off in a very strange universe that they really don't set up or give you any understanding of what's actually going on. Now I'm just gonna assume that this entire world here is based off of the TV series Sonic Boom that this game seems to be based off of. Now look, I don't know what came first, the game or the TV series, and frankly, I don't care. As far as I can tell, the video game doesn't do any justice to explaining anything that's going on. But that's not its problem. The entire way that the game is designed from a structural point of view of just basic game design is broken. Every single one of the characters has their own individual abilities, their own individual skills, but the problem is each character controls incredibly sloppy. The game has like a 15 frame per second issue that happens once in a while when you're moving really fast, and when you're Sonic trying to avoid objects coming at you, it sucks because you can't really get out of the way in time. And in many instances when it does reach a proper frame rate, there's these little visual glitches here and there that just appear all over the place, and they really stand out. And I mean like terrible glitches, things that shouldn't be in a final product of a game. One of the things I hate the most about this game is attacking enemies. See, whenever you attack somebody in the game, it almost feels like a repetitive injury that you just keep hurting yourself to do again and again. Now, I like fighting games and stuff like that, but Sonic Boom treats everything like the most boring task in the world. But that's why I like the electric lasso, or whatever the heck they call it. This thing makes gameplay, at least fighting, pretty passable, because at any point you can kind of grab onto somebody and toss them out of the area of fighting, and basically get rid of them pretty easily. I like that. There's a lot of instances in this game where you could just sit there kicking or punching somebody, or you could just throw them out of the area and make that whole portion of the game that much shorter. And believe me, the less time you're playing this game, the better. So, positive number 1 is the electric lasso. From a design standpoint, many of the graphics and textures in this game are bland or bad. Even some of the modeling work is pretty terrible. Now, while I don't want to argue the fact that Sonic the Hedgehog doesn't look like the Sonic the Hedgehog of yesteryear, he does look kind of okay, I guess. From a character perspective, it's not my point to judge. In fact, I kind of like the way the characters look, except for Knuckles, okay? Like, the dude looks like The Rock on steroids. So obviously that's kind of messed up. But one of the visual assets of this game I really liked, and I don't know if it's really a case because it's using a really good engine or not, but this game's got great lighting and kind of abstract visual effects. Best way to explain that is to show you this sequence right here. So right here you can see the sun going through the ocean and generally hitting the floor here creates this really beautiful lighting effect. Now look, I think this was an art asset. I don't believe that this is completely done with the engine, because it happens to look really cool, and I have to imagine these guys did something with their time. And these little abstract visuals, the lighting and all that stuff, look fantastic. In fact, if there's one thing that's really impressive with the game, it's the use of pretty much all the lighting and abstract effects and visual effects you'll find in the game. Now, while there are a lot of glitches and issues all over the place, every time you see one of these effects, it kind of makes the game look normal, look like a really high-budget title, like it should have been. So that's my second positive. The lighting and effects are pretty cool. Some say variety is the spice of life, and Sonic Boom is like a fruitcake. They just kept stuffing things in and they didn't want to stop until it was just this big gelatinous mass of disgusting spices and gelatinous fruit. But, you know, they did one thing right. Whenever you play the game, you get to choose between a bunch of different characters, and each character has their own individual abilities, which is really cool because if you don't like playing as Amy or Sonic the entire time, you can switch it up once in a while and basically play as somebody else. In each game that you play, in every kind of situation where you're at a level, there's an area where you can pick between one character or the other, and these little areas are identified by specific character colors. So for instance, Sonic has a blue color, Knuckles has red, Tails has yellow, and Amy has pink. And whenever you see these areas, you can use that character to kind of unlock or go down that path. There's one specific instance that is in my mind where I didn't want to play as Tails anymore. Instead of using Tails, I got to switch to be Sonic. So while I was Sonic, I could actually complete the level on a different side of the stage, and that was it. I didn't have to play as the other character. Now, that does two things. One, it gives you the ability to kind of choose a character you like the most and play as that character, and it creates a lot of really cool replayability, because when I beat that stage, I didn't have to go back and use Knuckles or Tails in that other sequence of the level. So, replayability is a plus. Maybe not in this game, but in most. So, the third positive is that this game has a lot of choice between characters. What you're about to see here is completely unfiltered. This part of the game we were just playing because we didn't really know what this area meant. We thought it was a door that you could go through or something, but we couldn't find a way to open it. That's when the incredible happened. Sonic glitched through the door. And when that happened, we skipped about 30% of the game. That's insane. Now, when we got to that part, I couldn't go through the door again because I didn't know how we glitched through in the first place, and that pretty much cut out a huge chunk of the game that we didn't have to play. I know what you're thinking. That's terrible. That's like the worst thing that could happen to a game. When they're designing something, you want to make sure that you can play through the entire experience. And when you get cut out from a huge segment of the game, it's just wrong. But when you're playing Sonic Boom, that's a positive. When we played this game for the first time, a huge chunk was completely taken out, and that means we didn't have to play the game for as long as everyone else. That's a positive in my book. So positive number 4, sometimes this game glitches and completely cuts out huge sequences of the game.
The following message is for Sega Holdings. If you are not Sega Holdings or a member of the Sega Corporation, please just avoid the following message. Thank you.
Okay, you know what? Sega, if you're listening, I've got a problem with you. You're one of my most favorite companies from my childhood. I owned the Genesis, I used to love playing the Sega CD, and the Game Gear was my portable system of choice when I was a young lad. But let me tell you something that I don't think you guys understand. You suck. I mean, everybody tells you you suck, but I don't think you understand that you suck. See, Sonic isn't hard. It's not a difficult concept to make, and people out there are making even better versions of Sonic games than you guys are capable of doing, which blows my mind. All you need to use is a simplified concept for game design and make it roll. Look at Sega Genesis, look at the Sonic games on there, and just emulate those and bring them forward to the next generation. In fact, speaking of generations, Sonic Generations was a fantastic game, and pretty much took everything that was right about Sonic and made it perfect. It was one of the greatest games of Sonic I've ever played in my life. But for some reason, you guys keep dropping the ball again and again. And this game right here proves that maybe you don't deserve to own this brand anymore. You might as well sell it to Sony or Nintendo. In fact, you know what? Sell it to Nintendo. Can we get a hashtag on that? Yeah, sell Sonic to Nintendo. Let's make that a thing. Cause honestly, you guys don't know jack shit about making games anymore.